After Point Blank and The Dirty Dozen, Lee Marvin became super famous in Hollywood. On movie screens, he stood right next to the biggest stars of his time. But that nice feeling was a total lie. Someone recently found a list that showed the 7 actors he hated most in his whole job. These were guys who were supposed to be his buddies and co-workers, but they made fun of him, tried to ruin his work, and fought him for every second of screen time. Their fights got so nasty that movie studios secretly banned them from ever working together again. And when you hear their names, you'll think about them differently forever. John Wayne, the Hollywood hero Lee Marvin couldn't stand at all. John Wayne is #1 on the list of men Lee Marvin hated the very most. And the real reasons are way meaner than anything fans ever saw in a movie. It all started when they were filming the Comancheros back in 1961. Wayne was talking to reporters and proudly saying he always tried to act like a real American fighter in his roles. Marvin heard this and walked right up to him while the cameras were rolling and said, "You didn't fight in a war, don't talk like you did." The room became totally quiet. Wayne didn't know what he should say back. Marvin had actually fought in the war in the Pacific during World War II, and unlike Wayne, he'd really been shot at. Wayne later left the interview feeling totally embarrassed and humiliated. But this was only the very start. Behind the cameras, things were just as stressful and tense. On set, Wayne tried to teach Marvin how to hold a rifle like a real soldier. Marvin, who had actually been shot and hurt in a real battle, told Wayne off loudly, saying, "I learned mine at a place called Saipan. Where were you when I was learning?" The message was super clear. Marvin's knowledge was burned into his body by enemy bullets, while Wayne's came from people showing him how to move for the cameras. People who worked on the movie later said Wayne avoided looking at Marvin's face for the rest of that day. But the biggest problem happened in 1965. Wayne tried to get Marvin fired from a big cowboy movie project, telling the studio that Marvin didn't show the right American good guy feelings. When Marvin found out, he was furious and told his friends, "He acts like a brave country lover, but he lives like a chicken." It wasn't just calling him names. To Marvin, Wayne's big speeches felt like an insult to the real soldiers who paid a price that Wayne never had to pay. Their fight was so big that when Wayne sadly passed away in 1979, Marvin was asked if he wanted to send a nice message to his family. His answer was, "I honor soldiers, he just played one." Lee Marvin's hatred for John Wayne was real, something he couldn't shake off, and in his mind it was completely fair. Frank Sinatra, the show-off diva who made Lee Marvin feel crazy. Lee Marvin didn't have time for the super-famous Hollywood stars who thought they were untouchable, and Frank Sinatra was the #1 person on that list. It wasn't just Sinatra being super famous that bothered Marvin. It was the mean way he acted to everyone. It all began with Sinatra not caring about anyone but himself at all. On the movie set, Sinatra was famous for his bad temper and acting like a superstar diva. Marvin once saw him walk onto the set late, yet still expecting everyone to do things for him. He yelled at the crew members like they were less important than he was. Marvin, who was already annoyed by the crazy celebrity stuff, couldn't stay quiet. He walked up to Sinatra, who was busy telling everyone what to do, and said, "You think just because you finally show up, the world should give you everything?" Sinatra, who never backed down from a fight, yelled back, "At least I don't scream my lines like I'm still training in army camp." The bad feelings between the two guys got even worse during the filming of The Dirty Dozen. Sinatra was supposed to be one of the actors in that famous movie, but he quit. And Marvin was not afraid to say what he thought about that. He told people working on the movie, "Sinatra is scared of real men. That's why he couldn't handle being in the same scene as us." And when Sinatra finally passed away, Marvin didn't say anything nice. His response was, "Sinatra was the guy who thought the world owed him a round of clapping just for walking into a room. That's not the kind of man I have respect for." It was more than just not liking him personally. It was a fight over how they thought life should be. Marvin couldn't stand that Sinatra felt he deserved special treatment, and Sinatra couldn't understand why Marvin didn't think he was the best thing ever. It wasn't a close fight. It was just both of them hating the other. Charles Bronson, the cold actor who made Lee Marvin super angry. Charles Bronson wasn't just another tough guy in Hollywood. To Lee Marvin, he was the quiet, icy actor who felt like he had no heart. Marvin couldn't stand the way Bronson acted, his whole mood, and most of all, how he didn't want to talk to anyone on the set. Their biggest fight happened on the set of The Magnificent Seven, where both men were playing characters who were strong and rough. While Marvin was loud, full of energy, and always wanted people to notice him, Bronson kept to himself, barely talking to anyone, making the rest of the actors wonder if he even cared about being there. Marvin was not shy about calling him out for it. After a serious scene, Marvin turned to another actor and said, "It's like working next to a stone wall, and the wall is friendlier." That wasn't just stretching the truth. Bronson's quiet, moody nature made him hard to work with or even talk to. Marvin found it upsetting that someone who acted like a tough man couldn't even try hard enough to connect with his coworkers. They were supposed to be telling a story together, but Bronson's coldness made Marvin feel all alone on the set. The bad blood between the two was no secret. Crew members often noticed Marvin making mean jokes about Bronson's uncaring attitude. Marvin even made a joke in an interview. "Bronson's great when you need a fight scene, but I'd rather go to war with someone who actually talks to me." Their problems weren't only about how they acted. It was about respect. Marvin believed a real actor had to connect with the other people acting with him. Bronson's refusal to be friendly made him not just a bad co-star, but a selfish, lonely person who didn't respect the job or his fellow actors. Robert Mitchum, the lazy legend who didn't respect Lee Marvin. If there was one man who could make Lee Marvin mad faster than anyone, it was Robert Mitchum, the actor who treated every movie set like his own personal hangout. And Marvin hated that feeling. He despised Mitchum's attitude from the very first moment he watched him walk onto the set, half asleep, a little drunk, and not worried at all. Their fight began during a late-night filming in the early 1960s. Mitchum walked in smelling like strong alcohol, his eyes tired, and he had barely read the script. Marvin watched him mess up 3 times in a row before finally stepping up and saying, "Are you planning to act tonight or sleep through the whole darn movie?" Mitchum just gave a little smile and shot back, "Chill out, kid. The camera loves me no matter what." That sentence made Marvin furious, not because it was bragging, but because Mitchum meant it. Mitchum's reputation for doing just enough for the camera made Marvin angry. A man who believed being hard-working made you a good actor. Crew members saw it happen again and again. Mitchum leaning against a wall, a cigarette hanging from his mouth, barely practicing, while Marvin walked back and forth, practicing his lines like a soldier getting ready for battle. To Marvin, Mitchum's laziness was being disrespectful to the whole acting job. The worst time came at a party in Hollywood when Marvin confronted Mitchum in front of many important movie people. Marvin told him, "Your whole career looks like you're walking in your sleep." Mitchum didn't even stop to think. He quickly yelled back, "At least I don't bark every line like I'm back in army training." Everyone around them froze. The fight quickly spread all over Hollywood within a week, making a rivalry that only got colder as time went on. By the time both men were in the later parts of their careers, the movie world knew one thing for sure. Lee Marvin and Robert Mitchum would never be in the same shot or say a friendly word again. Yul Brynner, the king who had a big fight with Lee Marvin. Lee Marvin didn't care about the politics and important people of Hollywood. What he did care about was people who were falsely arrogant. And when it came to Yul Brynner, that was exactly what he saw. A man who was so focused on how he looked that he became impossible to work with. The bad feelings between the two actors started on the set of The Magnificent Seven in 1960. Brynner, with his king-like attitude, was literally playing the part of a ruler in every movie, even when he wasn't. He was all about control and being the boss. He wasn't just acting well. He was trying to control everyone around him. Marvin, who believed in a more honest way of being a tough guy, found it infuriating. Brynner insisted on changing the script all the time, even adding lines for himself that weren't in the original story just to make his character seem more powerful and important. Marvin didn't hesitate to call him out. "You're not the king of this movie set, Yul. You're just a guy with a big head and a bald top." Marvin was not the type to keep his opinions quiet, and Brynner was not someone who took insults lightly. The next big fight came over, of all things, the lights they used. Brynner, always wanting everything to be perfect, demanded that the lights be aimed perfectly at his face, constantly moving everything to show off his features. Marvin, who was angry about the delays, finally told him, "You're not acting. You're just waiting for the spotlight to hit you exactly right." It wasn't a joke. Marvin was completely serious. To him, Brynner's constant changes weren't about making the film better. They were about making sure every camera angle flattered his royal image. The hostility between the two men grew so strong that when future movies were being planned, Brynner was never even thought of, and Marvin made it clear he wouldn't work with anyone who had been on a set with him. That's the whole story behind Lee Marvin's most surprising fights. Which name on his hate list made you go, wow, the most? Tell us in the comments below. And don't forget to click the like button, share this, and subscribe for more Hollywood secrets no one talks about.